someone wrote me the other day because they had said they love AutoHotkey, but it's a bummer that it's slow and takes time. And I'm like, we did a video, and I couldn't find the video I know we did on this topic, but of program. I said, don't use a lot of sleeps. Find a way to programmatically detect if you're ready to move forward, right? So let's
Yes.
cover just the general topic, and then let's show a couple examples of how maybe with UIA, that's the problem is UIA. Usually you can use UIA to do that, solve that, but boy, it can be very advanced to figure that out, right? But
Yeah.
with a normal browser page or even with controls, just say does the control exist?
I could
Like there
I
are,
could make an example. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I can make an example with Windows 32 controls. I can come up with something. There are many ways that we can, and that's the issue with
but
this, is that there's so many functions out there. If you don't know that they're there, it might not come to you that might be a solution. And even if you know they are there, you need to see somebody doing it, or you have to be very lucky to come up with, or very smart to come up with a very good, oh yeah, I can use that function to do this. Even
well,
I have been doing this for 15 years, and many times I'm like, oh, now like 15 years later, I'm like, oh, I should have done this one thing. You know what I mean? Like,
but I like to first let's explain it better because a lot of people that are going to be
yeah,
watching don't really understand what we're describing, right? And usually when people come to all hockey, first off, we start by sending mouse clicks and keystrokes, right? And we'll wait and then we will be like, oh, I want to do this next. Oh, sometimes it doesn't work. Oh, I'll add a sleep for like a second to wait for that to show up, and then I'll send the next click, right?
yes,
And then you give it to Bob, and Bob's computer is not as good as your computer, and Bob's computer. Well, all right, I'll make it 2 seconds, right, or whatever. And so that's what most people do, and we're not entirely knocking it, especially if it's something that's just a throwaway thing that you're going to do once, right? But it's amazing how much time it adds. So when I was at TI, I that was what I was first doing. When I even though I was doing stuff with IE, which was really easy, I was automating a web page and I was waiting for things to happen. And then I learned about
yeah,
looking for elements in a page and waiting for that element to exist and not having a sleep wait for it. It was basically you're watching for it to exist. When it exists, you move forward right then, right? And you can tell it wait up to 3 seconds or however long you want, right? So
yeah,
that move went from where it took me like let's say 13 minutes to upload a list down to like 7 minutes, right? It was crazy. I didn't realize how much time I wasted. And it was more drastic than that. Like it was really ridiculous at how much time. I'm sorry. So it was 7 minutes originally, and I think that got down to like 2 minutes to upload a list, and it would just burn through stuff so fast. I didn't realize that I had so much sleep and so much waiting for things to happen. And then I learned
yeah,
about APIs, and I didn't even do that. I just went to and it was down in a couple seconds, and I didn't even do anything. I hit a hotkey and it was done.
yeah. There you go. So let's create a simple example of what we're talking about. Okay. Um, I'm just trying to come up with a solution that is kind of like visual enough. So I'm thinking about this. Let's say that what I want to do is I want to create a script that when I press a button would open. So this is what I want to do. I want to open the toolkit. All right. So toolkit. I want to,
How about switch to the live code tab?
what I was going to say is I'm going to set some code and run the code, right? That's what I want to do. All right. So I press the hotkey, I open the toolkit, I'm going to set some code, I'm going to run it. So basically, this is where I want to put the code and I want to click on this button. So first thing is, I know that this program has a hotkey to show and hide. Okay. So what I want to do is press the hotkey. So let's go ahead and say send Windows, I think Windows and back and tick here. That's what the hotkey is. And let's test that. Let's see that that works. And again, I'm going to go one by one just to see how things are. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm running it. When I press F1, the thing shows up. So that's working. Okay, so that's good. Now, I want to, when I press F1, I want to send the code. Okay, so I'm going to do this. Send, this is some code. And then the enter key. Enter. Okay, cool. So I'm going to rerun this. Let's have this tell me that I pressed F1. The reason why I want to know that is that if I press F1 and nothing happens, I want to see a message here saying that I actually pressed the key and it's not that the F1 itself is not working. Okay, so that's what I'm doing there. So I say F1. Oh, look at that. It has some code in it. Perfect. That's working. Okay. And then I want to run the code. So we're going to control click. So control click. And we're going to control our position here. Let's use our Windows Pie to determine that. Okay, cool. Windows Pie. And I want to click on that button. So I know that is the button 11. Okay. So let's grab that. That's button 11. And it is from the window title, AutoHotkey Toolkit, I guess. Perfect. Oh, so that's fixed. We're having some issues with that. Okay, cool. So that's that. Let's now clean, remove. Let's press F1. So this kind of like ran, and I know that it ran because this is not AutoHotkey code, so it gave me a syntax error, and it told me that the syntax error is right there. So everything seems to be working fine. Let's just go ahead and say new line here, and then say message box. This is a test, and then run it. That should definitely run this time. Okay. So now let's do this.
All right, you said new line, but I saw a semicolon get inserted. Did I misunderstand?
Yeah, so I put a semicolon there so that this is a comment now, and it allows me to run the code. And now it ran, and I have a message box that says this is a test. Perfect. My script is running. That's what people would say. And then they will figure out that life is not that easy. We'll go and change the tab now. And what's going to happen is that if I press F1, things are going to break. And that's where this comes in. So what people might tend to do is this. Okay, well, I realized, oh, if I'm in the wrong tab, everything breaks. Let's make sure that we are in the correct tab first. How do I do that? That's the part that people would do this. They would say, okay, so I will press the F1 and I will manually click on my tab. So let me put a sleep here and I'm going to make it 10 seconds. All right. So that it allows me to kind of like press the hotkey. Let's say, hold on, let me just make sure that I'm in a different tab. So what I'm saying is I'm going to sleep here and I'm going to press. So it allows me time for me to click here. And now that I'm there, I know that the script is going to work. All right. Now you just added 10 seconds and notice that it's doing nothing. And then at some point it will do something. Does that make sense? So this is one approach. You put a sleep, but there are so many things that are incorrect about this, like you're assuming stuff. So that's where figuring out different ways to make sure that you're in the right spot are correct. Like, for example, when I press this, how do I know that I am? Check if if the toolkit opened, right? So let's do that. How do I check if it opened? Well, one of the ways is using a if win exist or win wait. So I could say if not WinWaitActive. And now I'm using the same name everywhere. So title here, let's just convert it to title here. And I'm going to wait for that window for 5 seconds. And if in 5 seconds it didn't show up, let's stop. But here's the interesting thing.
Hold on, Zay, just to clarify, because some people, when you said wait for 5, you're going to wait up to 5 seconds.
That's what I was going to just clarify. Okay. So there's a difference between a sleep of 10 seconds here, and there's a difference between waiting 5 seconds in here in a timeout. That is a timeout in seconds right here. Because as Joe is mentioning, if it finds the window in less than a second, it's not going to keep waiting. The sleep, it waits 10 seconds regardless of what you do, even if it shows up, even if it doesn't show up. So we don't want that. We want to make sure that if I find the thing that I'm looking for, then we just move forward. I don't have to wait 10 seconds if I'm there. That's where it becomes a little tricky now. So let's say, okay, how do I know that I'm in that tab and not this one or that one? There are multiple ways to do this programmatically. But what I was thinking about the problem a few minutes ago was like, okay, well, one of the things that I can do is that button, the run button, only exists when this is open. If I go to the other tabs, I do not have a run button. So that's kind of like unique. I could use the get text, for example. If you look at the automator here, sorry, the Windows Spy or Automator Spy in this case, you will notice that there is what is called visible text. So when I'm in one side, you will see some text, but when I'm in another side, the text is going to look different. See that? So that might clue me in as to where I'm at. For example, if I'm here, let's say here, look, I have the quick search, I have the add, I have the close. So those are these things at the bottom. If I'm here, I still have the quick add. I have the add close. But when I'm in here, I don't know why though. Somehow it doesn't see these two guys. You see the run button and the clear button? I don't see them. I only see some gibberish, right? So that is telling. I could use that information. I could search the visible text to figure out where I am, because each window has some unique text. But I could also, as we mentioned, I could look at this button and have information about that button. Like, for example, whether it is visible or not. Let's do that. So let's have a secondary hotkey and let's just test this. So one of the things is control get, and for each control, you have a lot of functions that you can use, like whether it's enabled, whether it's focused, whether what the position is, and so on. So I could find one that is control get visible. This is very interesting because now I can just say, hey, I want to make sure if that control, let me see, where am I? In this title, which is this window here, let me make it global now because I'm sharing it between two functions. This one here, that button in this window, is it visible? This function returns true or false. So I would say, let's message box that real quick and let's see, what am I looking for? Oh, here, right. So let me see if that way makes sense. So right now I'm expecting a 1 if I press F2, which I do. And if I'm not there, that should be a 0 because the thing is not visible. So that is working. I can tell whether I am in that window or not. So now, instead of a sleep like this, 10 seconds, I could now have a while loop saying, while not control visible. So while that button is not visible, let's sleep 10, so 10 milliseconds. And now you will notice that this, as soon as you create this type of loops, your mind should go into, oh, what happens if the button never gets visible? So let's add a condition. If the A index is more than 1,000, so right here, I'm just multiplying these two numbers. 10 times 1,000 would be 10,000. That's 10 seconds. Give me just a second. Sorry, guys.
But as he was showing, it's really cool to baby step through it and think through what you're trying to prove on where you are, and then figure out a programmatic way to detect that. And it adds, more lines to your code, but man, your code is so much more reliable and likely to not break and be faster. So it's a win-win. I mean, it's huge. Thankfully, in this, he's using his app, which is a Win32 control, so we can
Right.
use controls for that.
Sorry about that. So here, I was just saying I'm multiplying these two numbers to get kind of like a timing specifically. So I'm thinking about 10 seconds should be enough to get there. But the cool thing is, if it is visible before the 10 seconds, it will not keep waiting because the condition is going to break and it's just going to continue with the next step. So I'm going to say if the A index is more than that, then I'm going to break out of the loop. And now I need to have some condition, whether I found the thing or not, or I can right now have this here as a variable so that later on, after I exit the loop, whether it was visible or not, I can tell, oh, if the control was visible, or well, in this case, if it was not visible, then I'm going to return with an error. Oh, I couldn't find the thing, right? So I will find a way to, instead of having what I would call a dumb sleep, it's just like wait 10 seconds and give me time to do whatever I want. Instead of that, let's wait the 10 seconds, well, up to 10 seconds. And if I find the thing, do what I want. If I don't find it, do something else. That's what this is all about. And if you replace your sleeps by stuff just like this, at this point, what Joe was saying is, well, in this case, it is a Win32 control, so I could use the control get visible. What happens if it is in a browser? Well, I could use UIA to connect to a given button or find a given button and wait for that button to exist. Oh, what if it is not a browser? What if it is a different type of control? Well, can I, if I open, let's say, OBS Studio, can I access the program? Let's say that I have this. Remind me later. Okay. Can I find the buttons? That's where the ultimate spy that we have is really cool, because it allows me to figure out ultimate spy. No, I don't want to run it in admin. It allows me to kind of like figure out really quickly which things I can use. In this case, it looks like I can only use UIA. And if I try dropping that anywhere else, it's the same. Sometimes I could check on the menu to see if the menu interface is enabled or not. It seems like this program, I can only do it with UIA. So then I would use the UIA viewer to come up with some way of, instead of having a dumb sleep, we have a smart while loop, I would say. It is based on some conditions. And if the condition is not met in the end, then you have a chance to stop the code right there. And right now, I would say I wait for the window to be active, and now I have to have a way to switch the tab, okay? So what I would do is I would have some send command here or some control set, because I think you can set a tab, okay, to a different number. So you could probably use control set or choose. I don't know how it is. I will see. I would figure out, okay, with a tab, can I connect to the tab and just switch the tabs? Or do I have to press a hotkey, or how can I do that? But let's say that it was with set tab. Let's say that it existed. Control set tab, I would say, hey, switch to the third tab for my tab control 1. And I would say, switch to the third tab, but wait until the thing switched to it. And every time you perform an action, so every time you perform an action, now you wait and verify that that action happened. And now before running the next action, you confirm that you are where you think you are. And that's something that we talked in one video. I remember, Joe, I now remember that I was saying, when we're trying to automate, there's 3 steps you have to do. First, check where you are. check, well, a few more things. Check if you can perform the action, then perform your action, and then confirm action was performed. And if you do this in a loop, this is actually a loop. Go ahead.
No, I'll let you finish because you're right going to say what I was just going to say.
Right. So if this is a loop for each of your actions, okay? So let's say that for action in actions, right? So if you have a group of actions, I have 5 things that I want to do. And for each action, you have to first check where you are because you want to check your assumption, check if you can perform the action that you want to do, perform your action, check that it was done. Now let's go for the next action. Where am I? Can I do the thing? Do the thing. Did I do the thing? Let's do again. And you keep doing this, your program becomes really stable. It's really weird when it goes ahead and crashes. Does that make sense? But that's the actual way how I would say automation should go.
Except for one thing, which you did in your code and just didn't mention here. You don't generally want an unlimited loop, right? You want a way to check to say, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Is there something else going on here if there's a certain amount of time, right?
Yeah. So if timed out, well, I would say perform my action or confirm that the action was performed here. So after I try to confirm that everything happened, if it timed out, then exit. Then exit, you know, because of course, or error. Oh, the action couldn't be done. And I will keep checking until the action was done. For example, if I click a button that is supposed to open a window, I would have a loop that waits for the window. But then in the end, if the window didn't show up in X amount of time, then I would just say, hey, something wrong. Something went wrong and I couldn't do whatever I was meaning to do. So this is basically what Joe was saying regarding, hey, converting a dumb sleep is just, I would start calling them a dumb sleep, right? Sleep 10,000 becomes a loop in slices, 10 milliseconds.
Hold on a second.
1,000 times.
For now, comment out 15 and 16 just to say that actually is fine, right? I mean, it's not ideal, but that's doing what you want. But this is where you interceded and said, I don't want it to be we hate unlimited loops, right? So you're building a self-check here for yourself where you don't have to
because if your code is like this, what's going to happen is that let's say that I supposedly clicked on tab, right? Click tab or switch to third tab. All right. That was the action that I meant to do prior to this. Okay. So I wait for the window to be active, then make sure that I'm in the third tab. Now I'm waiting for this control. What happens is that if this action failed, I tried to switch the tab, but it didn't happen for any reason. Let's say that a window got in front or the send command didn't work or it worked partially and now you're in a weird state, whatever it is. Your script enters an infinite loop. And the worst thing about it is that you don't know about it. You don't get notifications. The script just pauses it. So let's say that the switch did happen, but this control get visible never works. So you are on the third tab. You are expecting the text to show up because you are looking at the thing and you see that the thing is there, but you never see the text and you're like, why? And the reason for that is because the control get visible is not working. So it keeps waiting and it's not telling you that it's waiting. It's not breaking out of the loop. So the script just pauses. So that's why I don't like these guys. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry for interrupting. I just, the logic on this is just hurting my brain a little bit because you got while viz equals not, but then below that you got while not viz. So, or you have if not viz. But it seems like the not viz would be a double negative, maybe, because
not exactly. So let's do this. The while is an if statement, right? I want to know if the control is not visible. That's what I want to know. So forget about this guy. We don't care about that guy. That's what I care about. While it is not visible, I want to sleep. I want to wait. So I want to grab that, whatever the result was. Let's say that when I check, it was not visible. I want to store that somewhere. Let's store it in this guy. So this is going to contain 0 or is going to contain 1. But you know what? You're right. Actually, I just changed the meaning of this loop. So it would be grab the contents, and if it is not visible, then I will keep waiting. You're right. I actually accidentally changed the meaning of what I was doing, and I didn't notice. So the point is, you get the visibility, save it, and while that is not true, then I wait.
What I was going to actually do, Isaias, was it was along the same lines, was rewrite what you did, but use an until statement instead of the while statement.
Okay, that's another way.
This is where, for me, because to David's point, while something's not, it's so much harder to mentally follow to me. But waiting for something until this exists, like it's so much easier to stay in the positive. For me, I prefer the until myself, just because it's easier to. It's more logical.
Here's the thing. So what happens is you have to do the action. You have to keep polling. Okay, so this is what we're doing. They're both similar. So what happens is I get the visibility, save it, wait 10 seconds. Now I check whether it's visible or not. If that is a 0, this condition is not true. So we're going to do it again. We're going to get another 0. This is 0. We get it again. Now, at some point, it will be a 1. When that is a 1, then the until is true, because until the visibility is 1. You can actually be explicit about it, like say this. But the true or false being a number, 0 or 1, if it is a 0 or a 1, you don't need to compare it if it is this that is true, right? So that's what I'm doing. Joe says this is a little bit easier to understand because, again, as he mentioned, this is in positive. When the control is visible, then we stop. In here, I'm doing the other thing. While the thing is not there, I wait. So it depends on how you want to say it. This is wait until the control is visible. And this one is while the control is not visible, wait. Does that make sense? So they're both, in the end, doing the same thing. It's just how you think about them. And as Joe said, it's very normal for us to say, wait until the control is visible. Just wait until that thing is there. While programmers like me, we're like, while the thing is not what I want, wait. Well, I just want to do something like check the condition first.
We always do the refactoring the logic and always go with the negatives. So we do
Yeah,
not
I don't
have
know
to,
why. Yeah.
Yeah, just look for not to do something, and then your logic will be very simple.
Exactly. Now, this is the other thing. I think it might be related to saving space. Many times, some people like one-liners or try to be a little bit more terse in when they speak. This one allows me to check for the condition in the same line as my keyword. In this one, you have to separate your logic from your logic from the actions. So that's why some people do not prefer this, because they're clearly separated. The until goes in one spot while the loop is in another, right? While in here, you just do that. Go ahead.
Could you move 21 down to 24 after the until? Not that it matters much. But
No, I don't. I'm not sure. That's a great question. Like, can I do this?
Right.
I know that this line gets checked every single time for checking the condition. So I would assume, yes, let's try that. Why not? Let's just go ahead and figure it out.
Which
haven't
I don't
done
like
that.
the way that looks, honestly. But
Yeah.
I also hate
But that,
having extra lines when I don't have to.
right, exactly. So basically, you could probably simplify that to this, right? So it would be do that action until that is true. So now we're going to go ahead and do this, not there. I'm going to reload. And now when I hit F2, I'm waiting. So right now my tool is waiting. Let me see if that's true. A index. Yeah, there it is. It is waiting. I know that it is waiting. So now when I switch, there you go. So, oh, look at that. The target window was not found. Wow, that's crazy. You know what? I'm going to tell you why. Because when you're switching tabs, there might be a tiny split of a second, right? Of like a millisecond where the window is not sort of visible. And
we did a whole talk on that too, right? Of the the window.
That's
it doesn't
so
always
crazy.
The active window. Yeah.
Yeah. So in this case, what would happen is I would have to account for that. And actually, this one would be the same issue as well. I would have the same problem here too.
Possibly, right.
Sometimes the thing does not really exist. So I would have to very likely put my code as a condition being false while it is not true. So what is not true, I would try to get the visibility. Sometimes it might fail, which in that case, I can just ignore. The correct statement would be catch the error and continue. So I try to get the visibility. If for any reason that would fail, I would catch the failure and just ignore it for now. But why put catch continue when just trying it and ignoring the error does exactly the same thing, you know? So I can try and ignore the error is the same. But in this case, now I'm handling the error. Now, in this situation, I don't know if I could put a try statement there. I can't. So now I'm forced, because of the try statement, to put it inside the loop, even if I don't want to. Okay. And now we're back to the same spot of, yeah, they're both going to take exactly the same amount of space, especially if I do this. So that should be what, 5 lines? And this would be what? 5 lines. That case, I'm having exactly the same amount of lines. The only difference is how we mentally think about stuff. And yeah, I am the one who argues, okay, there are 2 ways of thinking about this. What makes sense to me and what makes sense to most people, it depends. In this case, both, I think I consider them equal. They're both, it doesn't matter who looks at this, they will come to the same conclusion. That's not the same with all code though. There's some sort of code that when you type it, it makes perfect sense to you, but everybody else are going to be like, what is he talking about? Like, what is he doing here?
Now let's follow up with this, because this is awesome. This is a really great point also. Take either, because the thing, I don't care which one. Take one of the 2, put it in a function where you provide the button control number and the window title, right? And now you don't even see any of this, right? You just call the function, and you can pass it. It's so flexible, right? Because you're like, I want to wait for this control to be visible. Like, it's that easy, right? Obviously,
so we have
get
the
your
control and win title. Right.
And just
so that's what I want.
The window title, check for where WinWait exists and stuff. That's what Lexicos is doing. Granted, in C or whatever, right?
Yeah,
but it's faster. But it's a shame we don't have like a check to see if a control is visible, with the logic already there, right? With the window title. to just pass it like this.
Right. So now this would do the thing. And in the end, again, we need the try here. So if a index more than or equals 1,000, I guess, then break. And that means, hey, if I go over X amount of time, let's go ahead and we can make a time out of that.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, thank you. Sorry, exactly. Yeah, make that a parameter that you can pass and have a default value. That's awesome. Yeah.
So now, as this is 1,000 and 1,000 is a second, then I can pass this timeout right here. But I don't like that. The reason for that is that if I have a very large sleep, like 30 here, well, it would be 30 milliseconds anyways. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so it's 30 milliseconds. That's perfect. Let's say that I have 300. Yeah, that's 300 milliseconds. I want to keep my sleep as small as possible, right? Because I don't want it stopping other parts of my code like GUIs or hotkeys. So that's why I'm trying to kind of like make sure that I have very small things. And I can control this part, and I could have the 300 up here. See what I mean? So it would be timeout times 1,000. That's where I like having it. I want whatever you give me, which is 30, I multiply it by 1,000, and I already got myself 30 seconds, right? Because this is just sleep times of 10 milliseconds. And I want to always have it forced to be 10 milliseconds, which allows the script to do other stuff, basically. So, and now I will default to, I don't know, 10 seconds. And that's my function. Now, instead of having the whole loop in here or the whole thing, now I can just say, hey, go ahead and wait for button 11 on the title here. And as I didn't specify a timeout, then it would just do that. Then after I send that text, then wait again, but this time for button 12. Well, after I click the button 11, now let's wait for button 7. I don't know if that's a different button. So after I click on this, now I'm going to wait for a different control later on. And this thing is now a function. I don't have to have these loops everywhere where I can just now call a function. The cool thing about this is, again, as Joe mentioned, oh, my function has an error. Now I have to modify it in 20 different times. No. As it is a function, we can go here and say, you know what, instead of waiting for seconds, let's do it in increments of 5 seconds. So now I didn't have to change 20 different places in my code 20 different times. As I'm calling a function, I just fix it in one spot. And now, oh, by the way, let me change this to the win title here. So control and win title, right? That's basically how I would have that in a very simple little function that does what I want and make sure that, oh, we have to return here the visibility, whether it's true or false. Because then in the end, I would say if it's not visible and I had a timeout on it, then return, oh, did not find, message box, could not find button 11, for example. So basically I can wait for it for 10 seconds. If it never showed up, then go ahead and stop and do nothing else because that button doesn't exist. I cannot click on something that is not there. Does that make sense?
And I got one more question for you here, Isaias. On 29, you created wait control visible. Do you think it's better? Like, let's say we had, because you can also check if it's focused, or I don't know if you can check if it exists. But
okay,
would you create separate functions, or would you make it wait control, and inside wait control you pass it a parameter that says visible, exist, or whatever, right?
Okay, let's say status. Almost. Oh, well, that's a great question because right now I could say status here. wait control. That's how I'm going to call it. I'm going to pass the status, right? Which could be different statuses, right? And that status is going to be the name of my function. This is some of the interesting stuff that you can do with AutoHotkey V2, which is you can use the percent signs here to grab the name, whatever the value of that is, put it there and generate a function name, basically. So this, I'm actually just forcing the function to do something else. So for these two, I would make it visible, which is what we were talking about, all right? But how can I tell it which things to do? Okay, so I'm gonna do this. I don't need this part. But this, now I can have a list of things that I can do, and let's go to control functions. And I could just grab all of them, and I will get all the control get ones. Those are the ones that I care about. So control get. Those are only the control gets. I don't need the
right of the tab.
Right. And then I can just go to control get. I don't need those. So this is what I need. And now I can just sort this.
Why did not get that one?
Which, oh, that's a great question. I don't know.
It was weird. Yeah.
Oh, probably because of the EX. EX and okay, so but doesn't matter.
Either way, yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you this, I will never use control get style myself.
It depends. There are some things that you can do. So here, what I'm gonna do here is that I'm gonna quotation marks, and you're asking yourself, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing all that? It's because I want to put it here.
Right.
The reason why I put it there is because now when I'm in this, I can just hit control space, for example, and now I can get a list of the options that I could do for that thing. So I want to get control get visible, right? But in here, let's say that I don't want the visibility. Let's say that if it is focused. So I would say focus. There it goes. And now I have autocomplete on it. That's what this little guy does. It gives me the autocomplete for that particular MVS code. Yes. And actually, no, even other editors and also other extensions and other editors have similar things. And if you do the same thing, it's very likely that in other editors, you would get the same functionality because this is very kind of like well known. Right.
I'm just trying to explain it's not something that like a notepad's going to pop up.
No, Notepad is not going to do that one. No, but in any case, I think this conveys the idea of what we're trying to do, right? So hopefully this is useful to you. And the main focus of the whole thing was these type of loops are way better than simply a sleep 10,000, simply because the sleep does not, it's not smart. It doesn't exit early, and also you cannot do conditional logic on that. As soon as you switch to a while loop or a loop until and you capture the condition that you're looking for, then that condition becomes your if statement. And now you have smart code, which is if the thing that you're expecting doesn't happen, well, let's branch a little bit, which might be a good segue into the substring thing, Joe, because it had to do with branching. So yeah, maybe we should stop the video.
Just to clarify, to finish off this one, we focused on Win32 controls mainly because you use that depends on your tool, on the tool you're trying to automate. right?
Yes.
If it's a Win32 control, those are easy to do with controls. If it's not, UIA is, although it's complicated, is often available, but if you're doing something with COM or something, you don't have to use, the UIA either. Like there's a lot of different ways. It'll just going to be depend on the program you're trying to automate. So that's why. Also, I was going to say is this, even though you and I know you'll hate this too, but having if you can't find a programmatic, let's say UIA is over your head, and it's not a Win32 control, even if you use like the find text function with that type of a sleep
Right.
wait watching for it to happen, still far superior than adding a 10-second wait and just kind of going like, well, screw it, I'll just wait, a long time, right?
You know what? Let me tell you something. One of the things that I think we will be moving towards is using AI to determine the state of my program and figuring out whether I should continue or not. So maybe I would have a small AI with a mini. It doesn't have to be a thinking one. It's just like, look at the state of my program, probably with an image or something, and tell me whether to wait or to continue. And it would determine, so what am I waiting for? Well, I'm waiting for this thing. Should I wait or should I continue? And AI might kind of like just do a really good job at that,
Yeah. In addition to that, because we did this like 6 months ago, more than that, we took UIA and we did a dump off. We used the UIA inspector to dump the program, gave the whole framework to AI, and said, I want to wait for this to happen, and it gave us the UIA code. So I didn't have to, no one needed to know how to program in UIA, right? We gave it to AI and said, you tell me when I'll know when this thing exists, and it gave us valid code, right? And I'm like, again, that way we're not using AI every time. We just use AI to write our code for us, right? But that was a huge win to me, because I'm like, yeah, the UIA, it's you got to be advanced to be doing a lot of the stuff in that, depending on the program.